In this video, we have included a handout that goes over how to build a plate in South Africa, along with a list of signature dishes. Make sure to download your own handout below. Secondly, we will be featuring one of our student athletes who will be sharing some of her food experiences while studying abroad in South Africa.
I'm Mikayla Hinkle. I went to South Africa in 2017, and I'm on the swimming dive team, and I'm also a senior.
Perfect. So is there any cuisine or foodie advice for individuals traveling to South Africa?
I mean, South Africa has a lot of good options for food, but in case you want to branch out a little bit from your normal routine, I would suggest finding your other foodies on your trip and making sure you buy a bunch of different dishes and try as many things as you can, because there's so many different types of cuisine that South Africa has that we don't, but there's also a lot of dishes that they do have, but they're slightly different, so I would highly recommend you try as many things as you can while you're there.
Was there any food you packed along with you to South Africa, and if so, what did you bring?
I bought a lot of energy bars, and I also bought energy balls when I was there, and some individual packets of peanut butter. What else did I bring? I think I bought some dried fruit, but for the most part, they have very similar cuisine. Like I said, in the grocery store, it's pretty laid out the same as that is in America, so you won't really go hungry, and you don't really need to bring a lot while you're there either.
What was your favorite dish in South Africa?
Ooh, my favorite dish in South Africa. They had this dish where it's kind of unkerneled corn, I think, like maize with beans. It's called, I don't know how to say it, but it's like stomp and beans, they call it. That was my favorite dish. I'm also gluten-free, but from what I've heard, there's this thing called amagwinya. It's basically fried dough, and it translates to fat cook, and it's supposed to be the greatest thing ever. So I would highly recommend that if you have no allergies or intolerances. So try amagwinya if you can.
What is a typical breakfast, and can you describe it?
So a typical breakfast, at least when we were in South Africa, everyone kind of made their own breakfast. We would typically have muesli, oatmeal, eggs, toast for the most part, and everyone kind of pack it while they were there in the morning before we would head off to camp in the morning.
And what about lunch?
For lunch, we would kind of do the same thing. So since we would be on site teaching a sports camp, we would pack our lunches typically the night before, or breakfast, and we would usually do just sandwiches or salads or whatever leftovers we had. So it was kind of just on the go, grab your lunch and ready to go for the day.
And then dinner?
So dinner, so we were fortunate enough that one of the ladies in the township was actually cooking all of our meals, and they were absolutely amazing. So we had the calendar with all of our meals planned out, and there was a lot of traditional dishes that she made for us, but also a lot of American dishes. So we had lasagna and pizza. They're really into braai, which is basically just barbecue. So we had a lot of turkey burgers and things like that. So I don't think there was no problems in terms of if you had dietary restrictions, so dairy-free, gluten-free, or any other things that you didn't like. There was always something available, and then if you didn't like anything at dinner, you could always make a sandwich. But for the most part, highly recommend all the food that she made. She was an amazing cook, so try it all if you can.
What was the most adventurous food you tried?
So one of the nights we went out to a restaurant in Cape Town, and they had ox tongue, they had crickets, and they had springbok, which is kind of like deer, I guess. So I luckily was able to do that with all of my other teammates on the trip, and we all kind of tried everyone's dishes. So I would say those are the most adventurous things that I've tried.
And then can you share with me any food cultural differences in comparison to the U.S.?
I would say for the most part they ate at typically normal times, but one thing that we always did every night was after everyone had dinner, we would have we didn't really have dessert, but we have rusks, which are basically they're kind of like biscotti that are kind of little, I don't know, square pieces that people would dip into their coffee or tea. I couldn't unfortunately have any of those, but they smelled amazing and looked amazing, so highly recommend those as well. Try some rusks if you can.
Perfect. So thank